So once we have defined the scope of our analysis in terms of category that falls within the scope of what we have to analyze and improve, and we are sure that we can rely on the data of a sufficient quality, the first step is applying some tools to analyze our spending and understanding how we are spending our money, who is managing the spending, and with who, so with which supplier we are spending this type of money. This pool of tools falls under the name of spend analysis. In particular, these are the three tools that we will will include as supporting the spend analysis step in the portfolio management process, so the management of the purchasing category in an integrated way. In particular, we will see ABC analysis, ABC multi-criteria, and fragmentation analysis. And the first tool that we have analyzed is the ABC analysis. The ABC analysis is a first tool, is a basic technique that support the establishment of the priority and the relative importance among different items which represent different unit of analysis for purchasing. That's the idea of the ABC analysis. The ABC analysis is named ABC analysis because given a list of items, which we'll see in the purchasing case can be categories, can be supplier, can be buyer, can be order, the ABC analysis gives a categorization of this item in three different classes. A, the most important, B, the one being in the middle, and C, the items being having the least available relevance, so the one that can be neglected. Of course, the objective of this analysis is telling the manager or telling the person that is making the analysis, focus your attention first on items of class A, then step on items of class B, and then go on items of class C. In particular, I don't go through that again because I already analyzed that in class and explain. The ABC analysis find this historical root in the Pareto rule 80-20. If you are interested in understanding why it's named Pareto rules, I put this here a link that you can follow to understand why the Pareto principle 80-20 then is well reflected in the concept of the ABC analysis. How the ABC analysis works? So basically, the first step is you have to choose a list of items. So in the case of purchasing, list of items can be the categories, but can be also supplier, can be also buyers, can be also order. So items can be all relevant variable, all relevant elements that are important for the context for which you are doing the analysis. We are talking about purchasing. So for purchasing, possible items to be analyzed can be categories, supplier, buyer, orders, or whatever. Okay, so let's take the example with the categories. So the first step is listing the categories. So in this case, we have an example of we have 10 categories that step from 1 to 10. Second step, the category needs to be classified and categorized and analyzed in light of a specific variable. Okay, so what do I want to classify and establish priority and categorize the categories in light of which? There are different parameters that you can consider. For example, the amount of spending in the last year, so how much I have spent for each category. But this is not the only one. We can be how much order I have managed, or how much supplier I had for each category, or how much quantity I had in stock. So there are different, also in this case, as we can have different items, we can have also different parameters. So in this case, we are choosing category, and we are choosing one parameter, one specific parameter, the amount of spending in dollar for the last year. And here you have the list of value. For example, for category 1, we have spent last year $50 million. For category 5, we have spent $3 million. So for each category, we have associated the value of spending of last year. Step 2. Choose a variable of your interest and associate the variable to each of the items that you are considering in your analysis. Step 3. Arrange them in descending order. So you see that here the order has changed. You need to adjust the order of the item, in our case the categories, from the largest to the smallest. So we step from category 1 that have $50 million of spending to category 8 that has $1 million to the last category 7 that has $0.3 million per year. Step 4. Calculate the total. So our unit of analysis is the dollar spent every year. So category 1 is 50, category 4 is 30, category 8 is 1, category 2 is 0.55, but in total, how much is that? $100 million. So in total, the last year we have spent $100 million. So the step 4 is that once I have associated the punctual value to each category, calculate the base, so how much we have spent of the variable that we are analyzing. Step 5, calculate the incidence on the total for each item. So we take each category, 1, we have spent $50 million last year on a total of 100%. How much is the incidence of the total? How much category 1 impact the total value of spending? 50%. And I do that for all the categories. So for all the categories I calculate the incidence. Of course, this at the end will give 100%. Of course, this example is made on purpose to make this value coincident to percentage, because they round at 100. So in this case you don't see any difference, but again, the idea is that you step from absolute value to percentage value. Step 6 is no more like calculating the percentage and the value punctual for each category, but you are interested in understanding the cumulative value. So you are not interested in understanding how much each single category rounds to the total value of the variable under the analysis, but how much, like stepping from the largest to the smallest, they arrive to the final value. So you calculate the cumulative value. Once you consider only category 1, you include only $50 million of spending. If you include category 1 and 2, you have 80 million, 50 plus 30. If you include 1, 4, and 10, you have 80, so 50 plus 30 plus 9, so 89. If you want to include 1, 4, 10, and 3, you sum up all of that and you take 94, and so on. You calculate the cumulative value. So here you can see how, stepping from the largest to the smallest, you arrive at the total value. So from 50 you step to 80, 89, 94, 97, 98, 98.7, blah blah, until 100. You can see that as far as you progress from the largest to the smallest, the increase to arrive to 100 is even smaller. From here to here is 30, from here to here is 9, then 5, then 3, 1, 0.7, 0.55, 0.45, and 0.3. This is well reflected if instead of calculating the absolute value, cumulative absolute value, you calculate the percentage cumulative value. So this is the translation in percentage, okay? Which is no other than the same here in percentage. You can calculate in this way, summing the percentage that you already have, okay? So 50 here, 50 plus 30, 80 plus 9, 89 plus 5, or so on, or simply dividing 50 by the total value, okay? So if you Divide this by this, 50. If you divide 80 by 100, is 80%, and so on. Again, the cumulative percentage value show you how you arrive, how much is the percentage of increase stepping from the largest to the smallest. So from here to here you increase 30%, from here to here you increase 9%, from here to here only 5%, then 3%, then 1, then 0.7, 0.55, 0.45, and at the end 0.3%. Okay, so in this case you have analyzed all the data that you have related to the list of items, the categories, and the variable under your analysis, the spending for each year. So now you already have an idea of which is the importance of each class compared to the other. Of course, the first class here that rounds to the highest value of spending, of course, they seems to be the higher, the more important, with instead this one being less important because they only contribute to a small percentage of your spending. If we want to determine this in a more rigorous way, starting from this picture, we need to classify the category in A, B, and C, which is why the curve is called ABC. We do that using a specific rules, which is called the marginal increase rule. So the marginal increase rule tells you that when you have arrived at this picture, you discriminate class A, class B, and class C with these rules. Class A are the items whose volume is greater than the average volume of all items. What does it mean? It means that you have 10 categories, okay? How much spending they make in total? 100. How much is the average value of spending for this category? $100 million divided 10 categories. $10 million per category. Okay, so this is the average spending that theoretically you make for each category according to this data. These rules tell you that the item whose volume is greater than the average volume of all items are class A. So it means that all the categories that have a value of the variable higher than the average, 10 million, are class A. In our case, are class category 1 and category 4, which have $50 million and $30 million. So these two are class A category. Why? Because, again, repeat, they have a value which is higher than the average value of the variable calculated on the all categories. This one, 10 is 9, which is lower than 10, so is no more class A. Class B are those item whose volume is greater than the average volume of all items not in class A, which means that these two have been classified as class A item. Okay, so you remain with 8 class item that need to be classified, category items that need to be classified. How much they make? They make 9 plus 5 plus 3 plus 1 plus 0.7 plus 0.55 plus 0.45 plus 0.3, which is $20 million. Okay, these remaining 8 categories make $20 million. Okay, how much is the average spending for this remaining category? $20 million divided by 8, so $2.5 million. According to this rule, there will be classified, the categories will be classified as B if they have a value of spending which is higher than the average value of spending of item in class B and C. So every class, every category that has a value of spending higher than 2.5 can be characterized as class B. In our case, it is 9, 5, and 3. The remaining one will be class C. Look at the final picture. So the final picture is the classification of your items of the categories in class A, B, and C. What does it tell you? It tells you that you have 10 categories, so your spending is made by 10 categories. 1, 4, 10, 3, 5, 8, 9, 2, 6, 7. Okay? 2 categories out of 10, so this one, which are 20% of the total, because you have 10 and you are considering only 2 categories, your Class A categories, which are 20% of the total categories your company manages, already makes the 80% of the spending. So it means that if you forgot about that part and you just focus your attention on Class A, so 20%, you reduce your effort of analysis to 20% of the total categories, even if like it's very narrow, you are already able to manage, improve, analyze, and understand how you can do better for 80% of the spending. If you decide to make a little more effort and adding 3 more categories, okay, arriving to 50% of total categories because you have 10, and if you include A and B, it means that you are managing 5. So if you are cutting half of the category under your scope of analysis, including only Class A and B, so 50%, you get 97% of the spending. So it means that the ABC analysis is able to tell you where to concentrate your effort. In this case, this message is you have 10 categories, but 5 are making 97% of the spending. So if you want to improve your spending in a radical way, you need to focus first on this. If you have even like less time to dedicate to this, you can still reduce your effort and just consider in Class A category. Why? Because Class A category make up to 80% of the volume of your spending. And they are 2 classes, so 20% of the total, but just focusing the attention of these 2 categories allows you to understand and to improve and to manage better most of your part of the spending because you are considering 80%. This curve is called 20-80 because you are analyzing some items in your case category, and the 20% of your Class A item, which represent the 20%, so the first percentage refers to the Class A item. So your Class A item make 20% of the total. The 20% of your categories, of your item under your analysis, make 80% of the variable under your analysis, in this case, the spending. So the second percentage refers to the variable under your analysis. So 20% of your items, you have 10, and your Class A are 20% because they are 2, make the 80%, so explain the 80% of the variable that you want to analyze, in this case the spending per year. So in this case we call that this curve, this ABC curve, is a 20-80 curve. So now that this is clear, or at least you have in mind what does it mean to make an ABC analysis, we'll see this apply to the Crown insurance case. In the Crown insurance case, we will see that the ABC analysis can be made using as unit of analysis the categories. Okay, so these are the one example of item that you can make, that you can use purchasing category, but the variable under analysis can be different. In the previous case we have seen dollar, but we can also analyze not value in dollar, but value in unit, so in terms of quantity. Or we can be interested in understanding the classification of the purchasing category, not in terms of value in unit, so quantity managed, not in terms of value in dollars, so how much we spend, but in terms of order managed last year, or in terms of number of buyers that have been employed to manage this category. So, same item, this different variable of analysis. Another type of items are supplier. So I don't want just to know which type of category are class A, B, and C in light of how much we spend, how quantity we manage, how order we manage, how buyer we employed, but we can also analyze supplier. So we can understand which types of supplier can be classified as A, B, C in terms of how much we buy from them in terms of dollar, how much we buy from them in terms of quantity, how much we manage from them in terms of invoices and order, and so on. So the idea is still the same. Finally, we can also analyze buyer. So we can classify buyer in A, B, C in light of how much value each buyer manages, so in terms of dollar that each buyer then manage, but also in terms of order, so how many order each buyer manage every year. And in the case of Crown Insurance, we will now go through in building and designing some ABC analysis for buyer, for supplier, and for categories in order to start understanding how the spending of Crown Insurance is characterized. Then from this, the second task is to try to do an ABC analysis. An ABC analysis, again, can be made according to the pivot table command, and can be made, as we've seen in class, using different unit of analysis, categories, or supplier. Let's start with the supplier. Let's start with categories. So the unit of analysis is correct, is the one that is displayed here, but in case you want to do everything from scratch, you eliminate what you have put. You are interested in doing an ABC analysis on the category, so you select the unit of analysis that you want to be listed, in our case, categories, and the variable on which you want to analyze, you want to classify categories. In our case, will be how much I spent for each category. So the sum of the amount in dollar which is reported in every order, and the order code, because I want to know how much order I need to manage, how many order I need to manage for each category. However, if I put here, you see that the command is sum of order code, so it just sum up the different numbers that refers to the order code. To change that, you click this I, show data as, summarized by, and instead of selecting sum, you select count. So it means that it simply counts how many different order refers to civil DB IA, civil FS SIE, and so on. And now you see that now we have more interesting information, and if you go at the end, you see also that we have the total. So in particular, these are dollars, so we can transform that in dollars. You see here, and here we are order, so we are talking about the spending of 517 million of dollar, and I mean, you can already notice something strange, like the fact that there is one category for which this year we have had 4 order and no expenditure, meaning that probably these orders have been cancelled. What you can do is also ordering from here from smallest to largest, or to the largest to the smallest, directly into the pivot. Why I'm doing that? Because this can be useful for the ABC analysis that we are going to make. In particular, my suggestion is to use a new sheet, name it ABC category. You go here and you copy and paste the first, like this. So you remember that this is the order for the the amount, and if if you here and you order leave it some space, and this is the order for the number of orders per year. Okay. Now that you have this list, you can build your ABC analysis. In particular, this is the value, and I mean they have already been ordered in descending orders. The first thing that you have to do is to calculate the incidence on the total, which means calculating how much each value impact the total spending. So you do like this, and as you want the total value to be fixed, you put the dollar sign like this. You click select, then you drag down, and these are percentage, so you can transform them in percentage. Okay, here it's better to display some more numbers. Okay, so you have the impact. Now you can start here your cumulate values. Again, cumulated values are cumulated values as you progress on the category. So the first one will be just this one. The second one will be this one plus this one. The third one will be this one plus this one. Now don't trust Excel, try to understand if he has understood what you are doing. Yeah, it seems so, because 112 plus 13 equals to this one. Try one more. Yeah, it makes sense. Try another one. Yeah, it makes sense, and now you can go. Please make this check, because Excel is not smart, and please verify that this equal to the total, which is the case. And you can also do the cumulate on the percentage, and it's the same stuff. If we just or he has understood. Let's verify. 22, 28, 34. Yes, so you can go down and yeah, something like this to be more. Okay, now we are ready to design our ABC for the categories according to the value. In particular, we use the marginal increase as criteria, which means that the first stuff you have to do is calculate the average spending for all the categories. So A plus B plus C. It is just the average of all the values. Please don't include the total on that. So it's 7.6 million of dollar, which means that all the categories that here have a value higher than 7.612 are category A. So we start with the first, and we arrive until here. if you see, that's the last one, because he has a 7.8, and then we step for 7.4. Then, to discriminate between B and C, we need to calculate now the average of the remaining categories. The average in this case is 1,000,000.8, so it means that all the categories that goes from medical CCAN to technical IICOL can be considered B categories. The remaining one are C. Once you have done that, you can make some analysis on which type of results you have obtained. So, which is the total number of categories? You can use the function count value you know that you have 68 categories, and in particular you have class A categories, and you have to use the count if So you're saying that you want to count in this interval the class that are named A, so you have 23 categories. Same for class B categories. Will be those class in the same interval which name is B. And then you have class C categories, again, which are those classes are named C. Here you can also calculate how much categories are A, B, and C. So you can see that class A are 34%, class B at 24%, and class C 43%. And in particular, you can also see that the 34 A categories cover, if you go here, a cumulative 84% of the total spending, so the variable that we are analyzing, while the B categories cover until 97.15, while the C categories finally cover the remaining one, so the 3%. We can do the same stuff for the orders. So we calculate the impact on the total then we calculate the cumulative value and you obtain what are you looking for. You do the same, and you finally obtain. Then you repeat the procedure, and again you classify, order, and category according to the order, and you then obtain a classification ABC on the order, and on the volume, and the categorization ABC on the order. Another relevant unit of analysis is instead analyzing the supplier. So you can do an ABC on the suppliers. And what you have to do in this case, instead of using as unit of analysis on the rows the new code, we use the supplier. So instead of putting the new code, we use the supplier code. Here you see supplier that can be ordered from the largest to the smallest, and same, we repeat the procedure. So we want it is interesting to notice that we have supplier for which we spend money, but we do orders but we don't spend money. We have copy, so insert rows. So now we have again a list of supplier. Now we have a list of supplier order for that can be analyzed. You see how many they are analyzed for spending and orders, and we repeat exactly the same procedure. So now of course this should be order. Of course here, the total here should be the same of the previous one, and we repeat the procedure. So we repeat the procedure, and we redo the ABC analysis for the supplier and volume for the supplier orders, and I mean following the same process, and we're able to classify our supplier in A class, B class, and C class according to both the spending that we made with them and the order.